I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Us Aussies, as laid back as we are, there's a few things that get on our goat. So stick around and I'll let you in on a few secrets about what not to do and what not to say in the land down under.
You better run, you better take cover. Oh.
When travelling to a new country, one crucial aspect can truly shape your experience: understanding the local culture. Now, this goes beyond sampling the national dish or picking up a few basic phrases.
Well, we'd been down at Options Tavern at a Stubbies and Singlets party and
Beautiful.
got dropped off by a mate up the road and decided to walk down the survey, get some noodles and went to jump over a side on the way and slipped over and busted my plugger.
Australia is no exception to the cultural rulebook. Now sure, we've got breathtaking landscapes and crazy wildlife, but if you want to fit in, it's crucial to respect our unique customs and social norms. So brush up on these Aussie quirks. It'll make your adventure a whole lot smoother. Confusing Australia and New Zealand. Now, if I had $1 for every time someone has told me that Kiwis and Aussies are essentially the same thing, I'd be out cruising on my own yacht in the Caribbean instead of yapping to you guys on here. I once responded to an American who said this to me with asking her how long she'd been away from Canada. She didn't like that very much. And when I tried to compare her comparison of Australia and New Zealand to that of the US and Canada, she decided to end the conversation, and I haven't seen her again since. Australia and New Zealand have a lot in common: sport and British heritage, to name just a couple. But our accents are different. Maori and Aboriginal cultures are vastly different. Our climates and flags are too. Well, maybe not the flags. We also like to fight over who invented pavlova and the origins of crowded house. But despite there being many Kiwis living in Australia and some of the integration between our two countries, Australia has no plans to make New Zealand a state of our own, unlike some other places and people that I could mention.
And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have.
Now, speaking of sports, word to the wise. Don't criticise or underestimate our love of sports, as for many, they are a cultural cornerstone in Australia. Dismissing sports' importance could offend many people who are deeply passionate about their teams. When it comes to the Olympics, for example, we all become experts in Greco-Roman wrestling or synchronised swimming, especially if there is an Aussie involved that could have a chance of winning a medal. So jumping into conversations about recent matches or showing an interest in sports is a great way to show respect to our Aussie pride. Just maybe don't talk about breakdancing. It's a little too soon for that. I'm sure you've heard the rumour that we like to have a beer or two, but you should avoid assuming everyone drinks alcohol or engages in getting hammered every weekend. Now sure, Australia has a buzzing social scene, but let's not kid ourselves. Not every Aussie is out there sculling beers and dancing on tables. Some people prefer to sip on their water and enjoy the party from the sidelines. And many abstain from alcohol for personal, cultural or religious reasons. However, if you are invited around to my place for a barbie, assume that there will be beer, and bringing your own is pretty much expected. Unless, of course, I can cash in those dollars from the Kiwi-Aussie conversations that I just mentioned before. Respect for our unique wildlife and flora is also really important. And recently a video emerged of an American influencer taking a baby wombat from its mother on the side of the road.
There's nothing funny about this. A woman grabbing a wombat joey from the side of an Australian highway.
Look at the mother. It's like, oh, it's chasing after her.
The marsupial clearly in distress as its mum closes in.
And she is.
The joey is returned to the grass, but mum is nowhere to be seen.
The public outcry over this has, and rightfully so, been huge, with many calling for her jailing and deportation. So do us all a favour. Leave our animals alone. But be very careful when discussing Aboriginal issues and culture. It's a part of Australia's identity, and making jokes or disrespectful remarks about it is highly offensive. Indigenous Australians have a rich heritage and have also endured historical injustices, which makes sensitivity crucial. When visiting sacred sites like Uluru, respect the posted guidelines such as refraining from climbing or touching restricted areas. Taking time to learn about Aboriginal traditions and showing genuine interest reflects cultural awareness and appreciation. And if you're considering picking up some Aboriginal art or cool artefacts like a didgeridoo or a boomerang as a souvenir of your trip, make sure you're getting the real thing. There are plenty of knockoffs floating around, especially those that are made in China. While many of us can trace our families back to the convicts sent to the other side of the world in the late 1700s, don't ever confuse Aussie and British cultures. We might share a bit of history, but our laid-back vibe, slang, and love of a good barbie really set us apart. While we do share historical ties, Australians have crafted a unique cultural identity that we take great pride in. There's a lot that makes us distinctly Aussie. Assuming that the two cultures are interchangeable can really come across as dismissive or just plain ignorant. And let's be honest, we love to give the Poms a good run for their money in sport, and whether that's in an Ashes series or on the netball courts. Nothing brings Aussies together like a win over England. And one thing that we share with the Brits is a love of cues and the etiquette that's involved with them. It's not a free-for-all. Waiting at the ATM? Line up. Going into a concert or a sporting event? Back of the queues over there, mate. And pushing in front of someone is impolite and it's not tolerated. Australians take great pride in our pristine natural landscapes and we have strong environmental values. So littering or failing to clean up after yourself is not only frowned upon, but quite often it's illegal. And whether you're exploring beaches or national parks or walking city streets, always dispose of your waste properly and respect local guidelines. In 1966, Keep Australia Beautiful started as the country's first anti-litter campaign. And it's a non-profit organisation that includes programs like Tidy Towns, Do the Right Thing and Paint Australia Beautiful. Australian slang, with its unique expressions like fair dinkum and no worries mate. It's a fun aspect of our culture, but overusing or mocking it can come across as pretty rude.
Shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, no, we don't say shrimp.
What do you say?
Prawns.
No, wait a minute. There was a whole commercial that for
we
years.
know.
I'll slip an extra shrimp on the barbie for you.
You don't say shrimp?
No one says shrimp.
They made fools out of us.
Now, my tip on this is to listen carefully to how we use slang and try to adopt it sparingly. You're probably better off to try to understand what these things mean, but then respond to it using proper English. Of course, you could always take a crash course and learn some of the key words too.
Knockers. Shit for brains. Chunda. Galut.
So while we're known for our laid-back vibe, professional environments still have a bit of formality to them. Using overly casual language or behaviour, especially in those first interactions, can come off as disrespectful. It's a good idea to address your colleagues by their titles or their surnames, so Mr. Smith, for example, until they invite you to use their first names. Keep your emails polite too. Now, email etiquette is another area where we see some differences. I've noticed that business emails in the US can sometimes come off as a bit rude or honestly blunt because of their directness. In Australia, we tend to sign off our emails with a regards or a thank you. And we like to start off with a Dear Bob. It feels much more personalised. A little warmth in our communication goes a long way. And lastly, personal space and body language. Now, unless you are close friends or family, you're best to keep at an arm's length distance from the person that you're talking to. Respect people's boundaries for their personal space. It's highly valued and will make someone very uncomfortable should you crowd them and get too close. We also look each other in the eye when talking, and it's a sign of sincerity and respect. And we greet each other and say goodbye with handshakes. Not doing so can be seen as offensive to many. So to wrap it up, it's all about respecting the culture and the people, and keeping in mind that some taboos are best left untouched. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Share your experiences or your questions about Aussie culture in the comments below. And if you're keen to learn more about Australia, don't forget to check out this playlist with videos covering everything from food to travel and even crime down under. Hooroo, mateys.